All right. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. Welcome to our financial education panel. We are really thrilled to have our panelists here today that bring a wealth of knowledge and experience on financial education. All of them have served in their communities in different roles, and I'm really honored to get to introduce them and serve as the moderator for today's panel. My name is Cherish Flint, and I am a financial wellness representative for WECU. And I'll go ahead and just get started with a brief overview of financial education, and then I'll get into introducing our panelists. So, financial education helps people achieve goals, save for emergencies, prevent financial pitfalls, and so much more. While financial literacy education is increasingly incorporated into schools and classrooms and available online and through various employers, it can be challenging and intimidating to navigate. This panel will dive into the importance of financial education and coaching, highlighting our local opportunities as well as some of the barriers that folks face both locally and systemically. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our first panelist. This is Camille Koppenberg. Welcome, Camille. Camille serves as the local presence in Bellingham for Transformational Advisory Group, a Seattle-based wealth management firm. She combines her educational background in accounting with a personal, values-based approach to financial planning. Camille specializes in supporting women navigating the financial complexities of divorce, multi-generational families managing shared wealth and legacy planning, and professionals seeking personalized, forward-thinking advice. Welcome, Camille. And next we have, and Trudy, I meant to ask you how you pronounce your last name. Can you just go ahead and do that for me?
You go ahead and try it first.
Oh boy, okay. Okay, Trudy Shuravlov? Oh, Shuravlov. Okay, that was my first instinct. All right. Trudy Shuravlov. Okay, thank you. Trudy serves as the executive director of the Whatcom Dream, a nonprofit organization committed to reducing poverty through financial literacy education. Her journey from personal experience with generational poverty to leading the organization exemplifies her commitment to breaking systemic cycles of poverty. Welcome, Trudy.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And Eric Smith is a certified financial planner professional and serves as a SCORE mentor. And SCORE is here with a table as well today, as is the Whatcom Dream. SCORE, do you have a table here today, Camille? By the way, can I point anyone to? No, but they can come and talk to you. Okay, great. So SCORE mentors provide free confidential business mentorship and education. Over Eric's career, he has been a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer in Mongolia, a teacher, and a credit union community banker business leader. So former WECU employee as well. Welcome, Eric. Wonderful. So to get us started, I would love for each of you to spend about 2 to 3 minutes first discussing barriers to financial education. So what challenges do people face in successfully accessing financial literacy opportunities? What systemic obstacles do you see in your work? And we'll just kind of move down the line. So Camille first, and happy to repeat the question with each panelist as well.
You know, that's a tough question in my world. I think first and foremost, it's knowing where to go, right? It's understanding where do I start? And there's so much information out there, right? You go on the internet, you type in how to budget. And the first thing that you come up is, I'm supposed to be saving 20%. Well, how can I do that if I'm living paycheck to paycheck? What do I do next, right? And there's a lot of, I think from a society perspective, it's pull yourself up by the bootstraps and work harder. But that's really hard for people to do. And so the starting point is really challenging. And from the perspective of what I do every day, it's when I talk to my clients, it's talking about what are your dreams? What do you want to do? And starting there and writing it out. And then underneath that, figuring out, okay, how do I get there? Budgeting, everybody knows we got a budget. Well, it's simple to do when you don't have a lot of line items to think about. I think what's more important for us as a community is thinking about how we can help people develop skills to make more money. And I think that's really what pushes kind of the line over. So how do we So the question is, how do we get that information out to people? How do we provide the skills for people to make more money? And I don't know if I answered that question, but I think that's a good starting point for me.
Thank you, Camila. I think you absolutely did. And Trudy, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. So what challenges do people face in successfully accessing financial literacy opportunities? What systemic obstacles do you see in your work?
Okay, so you all should know that I'm a little ADD. So I made a list to keep myself on track. So here's my list. I think that lack of education in the home is the first one. Not everybody grows up with somebody else sort of teaching them the parameters of financial literacy. And it's usually because they weren't taught that. So they're left to navigate really complex financial systems, and that can be really overwhelming. So that's the first thing. And I think that socioeconomic barriers get in the way too. So individuals like myself who are from low income backgrounds are more focused on survival than they are in how am I going to retire. There's more pressing needs, and there's for some of us there is a constant crisis cycle that's happening that we have to deal with. There's also distrust of financial institutions. Some of us grow up in places where financial institutions can't be trusted. So we are very leery when it comes to financial products or banks or anything like that. And we tend to want to operate on a cash basis or something. There is information and an overload of information. So if you get on the internet and you Google, financial literacy, you'd get a million different answers. And so that can just be totally overwhelming. Language and cultural barriers, of course. The immigrant and refugee populations often struggle with materials that aren't translated or culturally relevant to them. And then there's the digital divide, especially with senior citizens. We see this as more financial knowledge is put online. It leaves out certain groups. And I see that with our senior citizen classes all the time. So there's systemic obstacles that need to be acknowledged as well. The first being intergenerational poverty. So that's where I come from. And so if your family is trapped in cycles of poor financial behaviors, that's normal to you. And you don't really see anything else. So you repeat it. And new generations have a hard time breaking free because the information is coming from outside. It's not coming from inside the family, and where there's trust already. There's a lack of representation in our curriculum. So curriculum tends to be, it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't speak to diverse life experiences, such as maybe not having citizenship, or maybe if your family is self-employed or you're a gig worker, and what if you're a single parent and you have to somehow make that work, and you don't have enough income for your household. So I think that can be hard. Two more, there's funding inconsistencies. So nonprofits like mine, I work for the Whatcom Dream. I was once a client at the Whatcom Dream. I was a single mother. And that's where I learned to be financially literate. And it was just through free financial classes in my community. But when nonprofits, early on, what happened was even Whatcom Dream, this was like 20 years ago, the people who started it, they couldn't raise enough money. They didn't know how, they started this little nonprofit with a very good idea, but they couldn't keep it going because they didn't have access to grant writers and such. They were just operating on a shoestring. So it was going to close down. And so what I did was, I said, if you buy me a freezer and $400 of groceries at Costco per month, I'll work as hard as I can to be an executive director. I don't know what I'm doing now, but in 2 years, you can decide whether I'm up to the job or not. And they said, deal. And I said, deal. And we did it. So there you go. So I think that, so Wacom Dream is all about that. And when you're coming up and out of poverty, I think that you need to be really creative sometimes. And I think that the people helping you need to think outside the box as well.
Thank you so much, Trudy. Would you like the question, Eric?
Sure.
Absolutely. What challenges do people face in successfully accessing financial literacy opportunities? What systemic obstacles do you see in your work?
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. Today, I am here on behalf of SCORE. So as I get into the question, a little background on what I do and how my frame for this question. So SCORE Mentors provide free, confidential business mentorship to people who are just kind of batting around in their minds. Maybe I'll start a business. I don't know what that looks like. To seasoned entrepreneurs who are looking at scaling up. So for example, the other day I was working with somebody who was thinking about starting a digital art store online. Yesterday, I was working with somebody who had a $3 million business flying airplanes for grizzly bear tours. And we were looking at their cash flow and their business financing. So I get to work with everybody who's just needs some help focusing ideas and finding resources. And I have a background in business lending. So then also I get to work with folks that are looking at how are they going to finance their businesses. So I'm one of 10,000 SCORE mentors powered by the SBA around the US. So as I was looking back through my emails, our mentorship generally happens through video meeting. It's very convenient. We do have the second floor of the Chase Bank branch downtown Bellingham, so we also can meet people in person. So as I was looking back through the requests that have come through, I found some trends, and one is, if you're looking at a challenge and improving yourself through business, is lack of experience or exposure to business concepts, like what's a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet. Those are key if you are working, if you're starting a nonprofit or starting a business. But what do those things mean? Those are things that we can help with, and that leads into the jargon. Yesterday we were talking about recapture on depreciation and accrual accounting and EBITDA. I mean, I've worked with EBITDA for the last 5 years, and I still have to remind myself exactly what EBITDA is. So that can be just, say you have a dream of starting of starting as an owner-operator truck driver, and then all of a sudden you're hit with these financial concepts, and you have to kind of wrestle with those and get that information and understand what the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement is. Those are things we can help. Time constraints. Who has time to start a business in their free time? Right? We have jobs and family considerations, and then the time that it takes to dedicate to learning. Maybe somebody is really skilled as an electrician, but then creating that capacity for themselves and all the financial things that come around it. So those are things that we can help with. We might not be able to reduce the time it takes, but we can help along that path. And then, one other that I see is a risk aversion. So fear of failure, not taking that first step because you don't know. So that's another thing that we do is we have resources, just a plethora of resources online, but then we also encourage people along and kind of point them in the right direction so they can take that step to decide if maybe they want to start a business or get going with it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. This was really insightful to hear from all of you your unique perspectives on what the barriers are that people face in accessing financial education and benefiting from financial education. When Camille, you were kind of talking about, just not knowing where to start and where to go. How do people get started? We heard a lot from you, Trudy, about, poverty itself being a huge barrier. How do you focus on the future when you're working on surviving today? And financial literacy around business ownership as a pathway, with the terminology that we don't understand, and maybe the lack of time because of how busy our lives are, that risk aversion, like you mentioned, so much. I know I'm not doing justice to everything you just shared, but thank you so much for your insights. And I'd like to turn now to solutions. So this is, the uplifting part where we can all, I'm sure from our own lives and the clients that we work with and the people's lives that we impact is, we see this every day, the impact of the lack of financial education or the access to financial literacy resources. So Camille, to have us kick off this next question, can you share effective strategies, resources, industry trends that help individuals overcome these barriers? And then there's a follow-up. So this is, sorry, there's a lot here, but what's some exciting work happening in your industry? And, some proven successful models or trends that you see emerging, work that you're excited about?
Okay, the fun part, the solution to paycheck, and we can find out what that solution is right now. No, it's every advisor here is, and if you go to any financial planning class, it's the budget, right? I've already talked about it. It's trying to figure out where your money is going, and then what to do next. And that's really important, right? It's knowing where the money is going, where you're spending the money, and writing it all down. But as far as solutions, right? Something that I mentioned at the very beginning is one of the important things that we can help people do is how to earn more money. And in our community itself, we do have places where there are free classes where you can learn skills. We have lots of folks in the back who are providing that today. And I hopped online and I said, free skill-based classes. And you can go to our Whatcom Community College and take a free Excel class as well. So there are a lot of resources out there to do that. And so that's one way that we can help people earn more money to learn skills, and that we have that available out there in our community to learn those new skills. And then it's, okay, I'm making more money. What do I do next? Well, something that I coach many of my clients is that as soon as you get that bonus, save 50% of that bonus, and the other 50 can go towards, maybe increasing lifestyle. And that way we're not entering lifestyle creep, right? We got this great big bonus and we're gonna go out and buy something nice for ourselves. We're incrementally improving our lives, and that's one way that we can help people. And then the follow-up question, as far as what I'm seeing in my business. So something that is outside of this community that is kind of statewide is something called Savvy Ladies. So what's really important to me in my work that I do is that I uplift women in our community and across the states. Our firm actually, in an interesting thing, I joined this firm in September, and what really attracted me to this firm was the majority of the women, you go to our website, the majority of people on our team are women. We're a Black-owned firm, and our advisors are all minorities. And it's important, I think, from a community perspective, is if I can see it, I can be it. So to go back to what I was saying there, speaking about ADD, I've got that too. There's a resource out there called Savvy Ladies. So savvyladies.com. Woo-hoo! It is a free resource. There are videos there, financial planning videos for all sorts of places in your life, whether you're going through divorce, whether you are job seeking, whether you are trying to plan for retirement. And those resources are free. In fact, CFP professionals will donate their time to help people file taxes to create a financial plan. And that is something that I've gone away from in recent years, but I'm exploring again to be able to help people out there. And I'm seeing a lot of that in my space as well. And then also another note is to be very wary about what you watch online as far as financial advice. If it sounds too good to be true, then it's probably too good to be true. So I'll end there.
Thank you so much, Camille. And it's just wonderful to hear about the representation of your firm and all the work that you're doing to represent, to know that asset building is for all. And that's what we're trying to do, today and in all of our work that we all do. I love that you mentioned lifestyle creep too. I think that's a really important one. I read a statistic yesterday that said that households with income over 200,000, still 37% of those households are living paycheck to paycheck. So it's not always, while extra income obviously absolutely is an important piece, it's not the full solution. And so to have a budget, it all tying back to that, like you said. Thank you so much. All right, Trudy, I'll go ahead and repeat this one too. It's quite a long question. Please share effective strategies, resources, and industry trends that help individuals overcome these barriers. Where is the exciting work happening in your industry? What are proven successful models? What are you working on that you're excited about?
Okay. So I think what I see is the thing that helps the most is relationships. I know that sounds kind of funny, but through Whatcom Dream is a community-based learning nonprofit. So we have these 8-week classes. They're free to the community, and we have teen classes and senior citizen classes and adult classes and women's class. We have all kinds of classes that have different focuses. They're all free, but we keep them small. And the reason why, and we have our facilitators. Often our facilitators are people who have been through our course, like me. So what happens is I don't just teach the class. It's more like a facilitation. I let them get to know me. I tell them the truth about myself and my own journey, which included a bankruptcy. And what happens is I kind of see the light go on sometimes, and they think, okay, if she can do it, maybe I can do it. And I simplify concepts right away. I say, this isn't about being good at finance or bad. This is about creating balance and a quality of life that you want. It's not so much about, what we're after is financial peace. Not everybody's going to make a ton of money, but we all have dreams, and we can work towards those dreams and use financial principles and goal setting to get there. Okay, even if that's just buying a house. So it's the relationship. It's the relationship. And I find this was true with me, and I do it for people all the time. When I came into Whatcom Dream, I didn't believe in me anymore. I had just had a bankruptcy and a divorce, and I was living in subsidized housing. I felt like a big loser. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And they believed in me until I could believe in me again. I was constantly, I wanted to quit a lot of times. And but because these people had experienced financial hardship, they were the ones coaching me, and they were saying, I know this is hard. Get up, get back on that horse again. We don't have time to cry about this. You made a mistake. We learn through mistakes. It was that. And it helped me realize, and then I was in a group of people who also perceived themselves as financial failures. And so we talked about that openly, and we found out that we all felt the same. And you know what? It wasn't true. Then they started talking to us about intangible assets, and they told us that's where you start. Be a person of integrity. What do you have right now, even if you don't own anything? What do you have right now in you that can't be taken to you? Do you have education? Do you have a relationship with somebody that works somewhere that can help you get an interview? What do you have a spirit of perseverance? these things are so important. They're more important. That's where we have to start, is intangible assets. And I didn't know what that was. And then they said later you'll get to tangible assets. But let's start with talking about what's right with you instead of what's wrong with you. And that helped so much. It totally changed my life.
Thank you so much, Trudy. I can already see there's a lot of great quotes and one-liners from this panel today that I'm going to be taking away. I love that. Intangible assets. Camille, you said if I can see it, I can be it. So Eric, we have high hopes for your one-liner as well. Just kidding.
Pressure is on.
I'm totally kidding. I'll go ahead and repeat the question unless, yeah. Okay. Share effective strategies, resources, and industry trends that help individuals overcome these barriers. Where is the exciting work happening in your industry? What are proven successful models? What are you working on that you're excited about?
Yeah, thank you. So one thing I was thinking about when we heard another one of those quotes, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Thinking about resources out there, we have so much, YouTube videos, online information, your AI assistance. I mean, information is just, our fingertips away. Kind of getting also back to the SCORE resources, there are templates on balance sheets. There's a course on starting a business, everything from marketing. There are workshops on figuring out the SEOs or the marketing funnel. So, I mean, all these different things on the SCORE website, all put together by knowledgeable, experts in their field. So again, I just kind of bringing it back to that. So with those solutions, another thing that I see as I'm going through client requests for SCORE is the money. How do I get this money to start a business? And that's what where I talk to people. So one thing that is out there is unequal access to capital, and I really work on meeting people where they are and hearing where they are, and then running through or kind of trying to demystify the different sources of funding to start a business. Maybe somebody has some personal savings that they're going to put toward it. And so then after a few months of starting their business and they get hit with a curveball, are they going to have enough savings to be able to weather that emergency? Or maybe somebody's interested in a loan through the Small Business Administration or SBA, and they get kind of a lot of money to start things off, and they're putting some of their own into. But then, 5 or 6 months down the road, and they all of a sudden are having a cash crunch, and it's a little bit challenging to make payroll. So how do these things go together? Family and friends, if you're getting help from family and friends, what does that look like? How does that relationship fit? Or crowdfunding. So you are, you're crowdfunding. There's fees that come from that, but also you are, your stakeholders are the people that put money in. And what if you can't come through to them? So just thinking about all the pieces that go together with the money side of things. Another solution that I see is to the best of our ability, leveraging digital financial tools. So, for example, accounting software and the bookkeeping side of things. Something that I work with people on is just to kind of understand those basic concepts and get comfortable with using maybe a budgeting tracking software, or for a business owner, a lot of people use QuickBooks or another type of software to manage that cash flow. Thinking about when we're providing education and it's so general, but meeting people where they are. So really listening and having empathy for that person that you're working with, and then finding the resources that meet and match their needs. Also, I work with people that are kind of thinking about businesses and just kind of like going through the motions of what is it to get started, but also trying to get them to think about the cash flow side, the profitability side. So over the long term, is this something that you're going to be bringing in more money than is going out? And that's, generally the goal toward sustainability. Thank you.
Wonderful, Eric. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Absolutely. It's so inspiring to hear the work that you're all doing, and really a theme that emerges for me is this getting started. Eric, you just talked about listening and having compassion and finding resources that meet people where they're at and meet their needs. Another great, maybe 2-line quote, but really good. And so I would love to now turn to our Q&A portion. We have about 15 or so minutes, so a little bit of time here we have some pre-submitted questions when folks registered that I'd love to just run through a couple of those and then open it up to the audience here. I know that, we could spend all day talking about, financial education. So I want to make sure that we have that time for the audience to reflect on what more they'd like to hear from our panelists today. But before we do that, just to get started, here's some questions that kind of fall into a similar theme. So one of them is, what asset building programs are available for seniors on Social Security and Medicare? Advice for those living on a fixed income, overcoming additional barriers faced by the Latino community, those who have experienced financial trauma. So really kind of looking at these unique life experiences and life stages, and what maybe recommendations you might have both in programs and resources for these folks.
I think I can answer the first question for senior questions around Medicare and Social Security. On the Medicare side, so when somebody turns age 65, they are eligible. They've paid into the system, and they're able to get health care through our Medicare system. And I had mentioned earlier that I just went online and I wanted to see what resources were available out there. Well, our community college has a free Medicare course, not to be confused with Medicaid, which is what I see often in my profession. Medicaid is the funded resource for people who are low income and cannot pay for their health care. Medicaid is offered for people who are also younger than age 65. You might have heard some news about that in the news lately. And there are resources out there for that as well. And then from a Social Security perspective, SSA.gov, it's a really easy website to read for seniors. So if you go directly to the government website, it allows you to go online and understand. You can create an account, and everyone should, even if you're young, because it's reporting your earnings. So if you've got a year where the earnings are wrong, then you need to report it back, because that is the calculation that they create for your Social Security. So a couple of resources out there, really easy to get to for seniors.
Okay. Seniors, let me stay there for just a second. So seniors, so we have a course for seniors that we've developed specifically for them. It happens at the senior center right after lunchtime, the Bellingham Senior Center. And so we teach it where people are going already. We also have a Zoom class, but seniors aren't so keen on that one. So they really like to have it in person, and we go and we have lunch with them. And just get to know them and what their situation is. And so most of the people are low to moderate income that we work with. We have it twice a year. It's free. And we have it usually in the summertime and then again later in the year. We talk about, I have a Medicare and Medicaid specialist come in and answer questions. I call him my Medicare guy. I say, we're going to bring the Medicare guy in here. And he helps, because it's incredibly confusing, at least it is to me and to most people. Like, what's part D and what's part C and what's this and what's that. There's a lot of choices to make. I also pull him in when, as an advisor, when somebody turns 65. So recently I had somebody do this, and I don't know if y'all have gone down to the Social Security office lately, but it's an experience. And people sometimes need a hand to hold through that experience. So it's not uncommon to see older people at the Social Security office baffled with they're not real computer savvy. And basically the office says, go to that website. And it's great if you have help with that. But if you don't have a computer, you go in person and they say, there's computers over there, but there's no assistance with those. So when I was down there was this guy yelling. These are it gets hostile sometimes. And there's an armed guard down there to keep everybody cool. So it's super frustrating. So that's part of the senior experience. So we offer to go with them just to keep everything kind of calm, because it can get overwhelming. And we go early in the morning, so we don't have to wait in line for a long time. Maybe it's different in different places. I'm talking about here in Bellingham. The Social Security workers themselves are really nice. They're really nice. And they work in a hard environment. So they're really good caseworkers, though, and they do a good job. They really do. But it can be intimidating to go down there. The other thing that I really hit in our senior classes, which is important, is many times low-income seniors, maybe other seniors too, but I work with low-income, moderate-level income folks. They often, no one's talked to them about end-of-life issues. And so we do a simple will. We show them how to do that. And we talk about what's going to happen when you die. Do you have any plans for that? What would you like to see happen? Do you have people that you'd like to communicate certain things to? And they love that as well. Then we also include a lot of community resource information for seniors in particular. There's a lot of programs that they might not know about that are in place for them. And so that would be particular to each community, but I know the senior programs well here just because I bring those all to them. And sometimes I bring in guest speakers too. So
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Trudy. And we'll also have time, of course, if I know we didn't, that was a lot of parts to that question. So if there's other pieces that we weren't able to address, please do speak up during, after this next answer here, Eric. Would you like me to kind of repeat what we talked about, or did you want to just pick up a thread on that? And
I can pick up a thread.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Sounds good.
Well, I think we're going to get Medicare here. We're all going to be experts in that. Just one other resource to throw in the mix there. A couple weeks ago, I attended a Whatcom Community College class. It was just a community class on Medicare. So it was an expert. I cannot remember the organization that he was with, but just another local resource. That one was free. A lot of times those Whatcom Community College classes, there's a nominal fee. There's an investments class, a basic kind of financial planning, personal finance class there too. So just kind of a shout out to them. And also thinking about folks that are accessing SCORE resources from all walks of life. One thing is we really try to meet folks where they are, and we try to be as representative as much as we can. Overall, in years past, 10, 15, 20 years ago, most of our advisors were retired business owners. That's changing. We have advisors, mentors who are working, different backgrounds, different socioeconomic statuses, different careers, different professions. We meet people predominantly virtually, Zoom or Google Meet, but we also meet people in person. So thinking about somebody who maybe is finishing a career and retiring, but they're still looking to, have maybe give back to the community purpose. Maybe they do want to start a small business, or maybe they want to give back as well. So the shameless plug, we are at SCORE, we are always looking for new SCORE mentors. And so if you have, if you know of, seniors or anybody from any walks of life that have some skills to share around financial literacy to starting a business, maybe somebody's working in accounting or marketing or sales, please send them our way. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Eric. I have one more question that I'd love to share with all of you and then open it up to audience questions. So this one is, how can we change the stigma of talking about money? Now, I know in your line of work, you may, feel very comfortable talking about money with clients, and that's often why they come to you. But oftentimes it's, again, when we talk about getting started, sometimes it's that first step. And what are some ways that we, can overcome or change the stigma of talking openly about money?
Well, I think, I'm a SCORE mentor. I'm also a certified financial planner. So, thinking about meeting people where they are with money on a regular basis. And that's kind of, that's kind of it. Spending, probably more time listening, or as much time listening to people and really hearing where they are, as providing the actual advice and information. One thing for me is, I'm thinking about where sometimes we hear this thing called a money script. These stories in our lives that have informed the ways that we think about money. And it's different for everybody, but my money script probably totally different than somebody that I might be working with to help them reach a financial goal. So thinking about my biases and thinking about really listening and hearing where they are and where they want to go, and maybe helping them uncover that a little bit. Maybe they haven't, maybe there's somebody who's thinking about retirement and they haven't, they just think, okay, I'm going to finish, I feel like I'm pretty good. I can retire on this date, and Medicare comes in at age 65, and I'm going to have enough money coming from Social Security here and there. But really, what do you want that to look like? And really kind of spending some time sorting that out and listening to them. So letting go of your biases and then really listening to people and kind of, listening through those silences and kind of pushing them a little bit. To help them get where they want to go, or maybe think about things they haven't thought of before.
Thank you so much, Eric. And Trudy, I'm so sorry. I just realized we actually only have 5 minutes left, so I do want to open it up to audience questions. So we'll go ahead and do that for now. We're happy to run the mic out. I'm happy to do that. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask our panelists? Great. Thank you so much.
I'm just curious, what kinds of clients would you say your services are not designed for?
People who can afford to go to a financial advisor and pay them. I have financial advisors on my board. And so that's how our folks get access to that knowledge. But usually people that we serve and interact with can't afford to go and spend hundreds of dollars on a financial planner. So they end up looking for an alternative, and they find us.
Any other questions?
Hi. My question to all three of you is, one of the things I didn't hear you talk about was getting the word out to the population. And I'm curious as to how you do that or what you recommend.
Just realized I'm holding two mics. I could have kept the mic with you.
I talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. I would do anything to get the word out, but I have a very small budget. I have 4 people working at Whatcom Dreams, so I don't have a large promotional budget. Most people come through word of mouth. We started in 1999. We're still here, but most of it comes from, hey, you helped my cousin, and so I want to sign up for one of your classes, or somebody will hear something. I wish I did have a promotion budget where I could explore those options, but really it's all that we can do. We put the bulk of our money into our programming. We have like 22 classes a year. So it's a lot, and we're all over the county. And so there's not a lot, as a nonprofit, we're little. And so I struggle that way. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe channeling something Ryan said in his introductory and making the connections with each other. So maybe there is less money to spend on marketing and getting your website and getting advertising out there. So, for us, if I've worked with a client who's had, a good experience, asking them to share that feedback through a review, or if they know somebody else who could use that, being proactive. I don't think people mind as much as maybe I think or we think about asking you to give their referral. Or we're looking for mentors, so asking, our volunteer, our mentor staff, if they can, to spread the word, looking for other mentors. But being proactive as people as we're making connections.
And then I'm not a nonprofit, I'm a for-profit company, but for those who cannot afford seeing a planner, I'm actually available on social media. So Financial Planner Camille on Instagram, where it's free resources for basic planning, budgets, divorce, women in finance, and LinkedIn as well. So if you look me up, my name on the thing is spelled wrong, so my last name is Berg. But I am on online resources, and I try to attend these kinds of things where I can and meet people and pass on the word. So,
Thank you, Camille, so much. Oh, absolutely.
Can I just say one thing? I think it's so important that got it. I think it's so important that we have events such as this. I loved walking in here today and seeing what everybody else is doing. We need to be friendly with each other and work together so that we don't duplicate services, and we can refer and get people what they really need and send them to where they really want to go. So this is exciting. We need more of this.
Hear, hear.